started right for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy to be engaged to the Father Project. No other than Mr. John Hord.
Hello there. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. John. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. My name is Jon Hord, and I created the Engaged Father Project, which is a group coaching program for fathers, in particular, fathers that are working hard to be a provider, and maybe they're putting the majority of their focus and energy into work, and maybe whatever's left over is what they're bringing home for their family. And maybe they're feeling the discomfort of that, and they want to make a change before, their kids grow up and move out of the house, because we really do have a short window of time with our kids, and I want to help fathers make the most of that. And I want to help fathers not feel the weight of regret that they may run into later in life, if they don't really show up now while it counts.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. John. Thank you for empowering men all over the world. So today let's talk about fatherhood itself. So tell us, how has your personal definition or understanding of what it means to be a father evolved since you first entered the role?
Well, I mean, I think the role of being a father, it's unique, right? Like I will say that the work that I do to support fathers, it is not telling people to do what I did, right? It's not like I cracked the code on how to be some incredible father. It's that is a very personal decision. And so what I do is I really help people and I support them to become more clear on the ideal version of the father that they want to be, right? So they don't make it to be later in life and look back and just realize that they missed this opportunity. So it's helping them set a goal, and to articulate what it means to them to be an incredible father, right? Not just be a good dad, because in my opinion, being a father is the most important work that I can do, and I want other fathers to get really clear on what that means to them, being that incredible father. And then we start taking action steps to turn that into their reality.
The reality indeed. So, what was the expectation or stereotype about fatherhood you held before becoming a parent that was completely dismantled by the reality?
Hmm. Well, I don't know that it was a surprise, but there's the saying that, kids don't come with an instruction manual, and it rings true for fatherhood as well, right? Like there is no book that tells us how to do this. And it's interesting when you think about it, like if it is one of the most important things, or if it is the most important thing that we can do, and yet there's nobody there that guides us on how to do it, there's a gap, in my opinion. And I think that reality sets in. And maybe it sets in sooner for some, but for me, it took a while. And I thought that my value as a father, um, was really in being a financial provider for the family. Um, and it took some hardships and some really challenging moments in my life for me to realize that what I had set out as a goal for being a dad, um, it wasn't it wasn't true, or it wasn't true any longer for me. And it was a challenging discovery for me to make, but I'm incredibly grateful for the fact that I had an opportunity. I had a moment of clarity. And fortunately, my kids were still young enough to where I was able to make that change before they were grown and out of the house.
And Mr. John, who was your most influential model or blueprint for fatherhood? And in what ways you consciously chosen to follow or depart from that model?
Well, I mean, I think by default, our our model for a father is how we were raised, right? So if we were fortunate enough to have a father in our lives, then that becomes the model. If someone is raised in a single parent household and they didn't have a father, then basically they get to look around and see what's going on around them socially. And that's how they kind of learn what a father's supposed to be. And so it's important for dads to make intentional decisions that align with their own personal vision of how they want to be a parent, right? And one of the little measures or tools that we use is to think about how we want our kids to describe us as a father when they've grown up. Maybe it's when they move out of the house, right? Like, and maybe they're going to college and they're moving in with a new college roommate. Like, how do we want our kids to describe us? What do we hope that they would say about us? And whatever comes up for that father, um, we put a plan in place and we start a an action plan where these fathers can start taking small intentional steps that get them closer to that goal. So their kids grow up, whatever those words are. Like for me personally, like I want my kids to feel unconditionally loved. I want them to feel seen as an important member of the family, and I want them to feel supported. And so when I keep those words in mind, it influences my actions. It influences how I respond in certain situations. And there's times when maybe it's just kind of a quiet moment and there's not a current interaction going on within the family. I'll just ask myself, what's something that I could do right now in this moment that aligns with one of those three words? And it doesn't have to be something big. It could be something small, but I'm acting out of intention and I'm choosing what I'm doing based off of this ideal outcome that I'm working toward.
And Mr. John, beyond providing a protecting, what do you believe is the father's most essential and irreplaceable contribution to a child's life?
Again, this is my personal belief, and I wouldn't say that it's the right answer for everybody, but I think my biggest contribution that I can make as a father is to be an unconditional and reliable source of love and support for my kids. I want them to always know without a question of a doubt that I loved them deeply and that I truly was there to support them. And um, I think that type of knowledge and understanding from our kids goes beyond words, right? I don't think you can just say, I love you a lot and hope that they walk away with that rich feeling of unconditional love. I think it is important to verbally communicate that to our kids, but I don't I don't believe that it can end there.
Prove to them that you love them, people, not just only by words. On challenges, growth, and the work, Mr. John, what has been the most humbling or vulnerable moment for you in a journey as a father, and what did it teach you?
Mm. Well, I love that you use the word vulnerable there because again, I don't I don't mean to preach about how I parent and tell other people that they should do the same thing. I can only share what's been really impactful for me, and I love being vulnerable for my kids. I think it's a really powerful way for them to feel like they're an important part of this family, right? I don't love like wielding my authority as a father over my kids. I don't want it to be like this power that I just have. legally, there's a lot of decisions that I can make for my kids because they're under 18, but that's not how I want to parent. I choose to be vulnerable. And one of the ways that I do that with my kids is, you know, there are tough moments. Like inevitably, as a parent, there's going to be challenges and there's going to be conflict and there's going to be tense moments. And after one of those moments, maybe after some time has gone by and people have kind of calmed down, I'll I'll go and I'll ask my kids, how did I do? Like, hey, that was a tough moment, right? Yeah, it was. Tell me, how did I do? Because I was trying to slow down and I was trying to really listen, but I'd love to hear from you. How did I do in that tense moment? In giving kids an opportunity to really speak openly and honestly about what it was like for them to have to work through that situation with me and getting their feedback on where I could do better. And there's times when I've asked for that feedback when I thought I didn't do great. And my kids might say, you know what, you really did awesome there. We can see, and I talk openly about the work that I'm doing on myself as a father. And they refer to the older version of me. They call that old dad. And they'll say, old dad would have, probably gotten way more frustrated there, but like, you didn't, and you really stayed calm and you did great. And then there's been other times where like I thought I nailed it. And one of my kids would be like, "You did all right. I'll give you like a C plus." I was like, oh, okay. Like I felt better about that. But I'm glad that we're having this conversation because my my own perception of how I showed up in that moment was here, and their perception was here. And so it creates an opportunity to have that conversation. Like, well, tell me, like, in your opinion, like, what could I have done differently? What would have helped the situation? Or as a dad, like, what could I have done for you as the kid that really would have helped you through that tough moment? And otherwise, like, without that willingness to be vulnerable as a parent, I think it's really tough to have those types of conversations.
Really tough indeed. And Mr. John, fatherhood often requires a kind of emotional labor that was not always modeled for men. Have you ever learned to access, express, and regulate your emotions for the benefit of your family?
Oh, yeah. And like, I'm not too proud to say, like, that's a work in progress. One of the things that we talk about inside the Engaged Father Project is responding instead of reacting. And I'll explain, at least in my opinion, what the difference of those two words is. So, a reaction doesn't really take any effort. It typically it just happens in the moment. It's reflexive, like almost like on your knee. You hit your knee, your leg goes up. There's no conscious thought in that action. And so when we're reacting, it's a triggered response based off of how we feel about certain things, what we believe to be true, certain fears that we hold on to, beliefs about ourselves, limiting beliefs sometimes about like maybe we're not good enough or we're not worthy of love, whatever it may be, things that we hold inside, they they sort of like culminate in this reactive response, and it's just sort of automatic. And
Autopilot.
compare compare yes, exactly, autopilot. And then compare that to a response. And for me, a response is intentional. And something happens, and instead of this being like, like an autopilot reaction, you just pause, like just for sometimes literally 1 second can be enough. But maybe you take 2 or 3 seconds, and then maybe you take a couple just quick breaths, and then you just ask yourself, like, okay, like how is it that I want to respond in this situation? What's my ultimate outcome? Am I just trying to shut them down so I can move on with things, or do I want my kids to walk away with the feeling that I was empathetic to whatever it is that they had going on? And I can model, emotional control. So instead of just reacting very sharply, you just take a breath, and like your tone of voice can be softer and more understanding, and you've created a little bit of space where you can act in a way that, like, you know, in the future, what maybe it's just 10 minutes from that. If you're looking back on that moment, when you create that space to make a really intentional response, like, you can feel that as a father. And I know that the kids will feel it as well, but like it really is sort of like a, pat yourself on the back moment when you realize, like, man, there's a version of me not too far in the rearview mirror that might have just, reacted very strongly. But like, I didn't do that. I taught myself that I can respond slower and with intention. And it's a beautiful thing, and the impact is immense.
Interesting and empowering answer, Mr. John. Let's talk about on connection and day to day. What a simple, non-negotiable ritual or tradition you have created with your children that feel deepens your connection.
I enjoy having conversations about what presence and awareness looks like. And I do my best to not have it sound like a lecture, and I try to just ask questions that encourage them to or critical thought into things. And so one that I think is kind of common, where instead of just like asking your kid, like, how was your day? They get off the school bus. How was your day? Good. Like, you're going to get that response most of the time. Maybe if they have a tough day, they're going to tell you, oh, yeah, my day was really hard. But instead of asking, how was your day? You can say, like, what was the best part of your day? And that question is way more open ended. It encourages them to sort of stop and be present in that moment and kind of look back through their day. So there are like certain little tricks that we can do that promote that sort of reflection and awareness. But I love nature. I try to get my kids out into nature, and we're walking, and we'll just kind of play like the five senses game. Like, what's something, and they'll initiate it with me now, which is so cool. But like, if we're just walking down a trail, they'll just say, like, I'm noticing that the color of the leaves are starting to turn. And then it goes to the next person. I can hear that as I walk, the rocks are kicking on the trail, and I hear them move after my foot has stopped moving. And then that might be my turn. Like, I can hear that there are birds up in the trees. And so it's kind of a fun game. It's something that kids can do at a really young age, but it helps encourage them to notice things as they're happening in the moment, because a skill that we can teach ourselves over time, and I wish it was something that would have been taught to me at a younger age, is how to be present, how to be in the moment. I heard somebody say not long ago, I want to be where my feet are, which I think is a really cool way of saying it, because, you know, our experience of life, if we're not present for it and we're mentally, you know, beating ourselves up for something that happened in the past, or we're looking into the future of something that we hope will happen, or something that we're afraid will happen, we're just not really there. And there's so much life that we actually miss out on if we don't learn how to be present.
Learn to be present, people, to your kids. And Mr. John, as the founder of Engaged Father Projects, what are your short term and long term goals?
For the program as a whole,
Yes, please.
yeah. Well, short term, like, as early as, working with somebody within the first day, they have more clarity and they have a better understanding of what being a great father looks like for them. So like, that impact can happen right away. Long term, um, I'm I'm so motivated and energized by the fact that the work that these fathers and I are doing together, that it will outlive us, right? This is generational. and legacy based work, um, and the ripple effect of being really intentional and guiding and directing our family tree, right? Not being on that autopilot where we just take whatever we were handed and then we just pass it along to the next generation. Being really intentional, being able to point our family lineage in a direction where maybe there is more love and empathy and understanding and presence and whatever words are important to you as a father, and to know that that's what will get passed down as a result of doing this work, to the point where, our great grandkids might have a different kind of upbringing because of the work that we're doing today. And the fact, and it's fun to think about, that there are people that might benefit from this work that won't ever be alive at the same time that I am, or at the same time as the father is that I'm working with. And to know that we can have that sort of impact now is it puts winds in my sails.
Indeed. So, Mr. John, good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, uh, I would say take the time. Take the time to get really clear on the type of dad that you want to be. Um, I do offer a way for people to work with me, um, one-on-one at no cost. So the 8-week program, it is a paid program, and the price is there on the website. But if people aren't sure, or they're simply not able to afford that at this time, there is a way that they can work with me one-on-one for 5 days. And I call that the Engaged Father Jumpstart. So, um, as an offer for anybody that might be listening to this, if you want to find me on Instagram, my handle there is at the Engaged Father Project. Send me a direct message and let me know that you heard me on the Book 101 show, and we can work together at no cost, and you will get incredible value from it. I've taken people through that program, and some of the fathers have done amazing work in just a short amount of time.
And thank you again for empowering men all over the world, especially the fathers. And Mr. John, thank you for that advice. And can you please recommend a book of books that influence your journey?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of three books that were written by Dr. Benjamin and Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And those are 10x is easier than 2x, um, Who, Not How, and The Gap and the Gain. So those three books, they work really well with each other, and they have really helped me step into this role as an entrepreneur and somebody that's building a business and somebody that has a grand vision for wanting to help uh, thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people. And they have really really helped me. And I will say that, like, even to take it another step, I joined a group that is based on the teachings of these three books. And when you can immerse yourself in a community of people that are like-minded and they're there for accountability and support, it it does sort of 10x the results, as opposed to just reading that book and then putting it down and just going on with your life. So I will say, if anybody has found like a self-help book that really means a lot to them, I would seek out a community and be a part of that, where you can invest your time and energy there, but you're also going to get that back from other people. And I can point to so many successes in my professional career as I'm growing this business as a direct result of being in a community like that.
Well, thank you for that advice, Mr. John. And Well, also for the recommended books. So, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to post to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review is coming sixth season, comedy 101 in its third season, food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101, fourth season, Music 101, Science 101, and Sex 101, second season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101. Law 101, Bible Verses 101, Entrepreneurship 101. Now, please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. John, for a new expecting father listening who feels a mix of excitement and sheer terror, what is your single most reassuring message?
Mm. Give yourself the time and space to figure things out. You're going to have a lot of advice as a new first time father. Everybody's going to come to you with advice, and they're going to tell you what works. And basically, that is what worked for them. Give yourself some time to know that you will figure it out, and let the dust settle. The beginning of a child's life, things are so new and so fresh. You're just trying to keep your head screwed on straight. But once that dust sort of settles, then I would say take the time to really set some goals that work for you when it comes to being a father. Don't drift. Don't be on autopilot. Be very intentional, because that time that you have with your kids, um, I know, especially early on, those days and those nights, they're not easy, but the time will go faster than you think that it will.
Yes, and again, Mr. John, thank you so much for empowering fathers all over the world. Keep up the good work and please create more advocacy like this that empower us. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101?
Yeah, thank you. My website is theengagedfatherproject.com, and find me on Instagram and YouTube at the Engaged Father Project.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Jon Hord because if you support him, for sure more and more empowering project for father will rise. So, Mr. John, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Have a lovely day.
Monica people, see you soon.